7 minutes before dawn, radar screens aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford lit up with 5 contacts that shouldn't have been there. Iranian warships, moving fast, closing distance. And what happened next turned a routine transit through the Strait of Hormuz into a masterclass in naval warfare that Iran desperately wants you to forget. This wasn't random. 5 ships don't just stumble into formation against a US aircraft carrier by accident. This was calculated pressure designed to force a reaction. And the reaction they got exposed something about modern naval power that changes everything you think you know about confrontation at sea. The numbers tell the first part of the story. 5 Iranian vessels versus 1 American carrier strike group sounds almost fair until you understand what those 7 words actually mean. The USS Gerald R. Ford doesn't travel alone, but it moves inside a protective network of destroyers, cruisers, helicopters, fighter aircraft, and electronic warfare systems that can track, target, and engage threats from hundreds of miles away. But Iran wasn't trying to sink the carrier, they were trying something far more dangerous. At 5:19 local time, the Iranian formation split into what naval officers call a pressure box. 2 ships moved wide to flank the American formation, another held position off the bow. A missile boat cut across the carrier's projected path. Behind them, a command vessel coordinated the entire maneuver. This wasn't an attack formation. This was a trap designed to make the US Navy react first, turn away, or escalate into something that could be filmed, edited, and broadcast as American aggression. The trap almost worked. When the lead Iranian frigate turned inward, cutting across the American destroyer's path, the closest point of approach dropped to 1.6 nautical miles. That's close enough for small arms fire, close enough for ramming, close enough for a mistake to become an international incident before breakfast. The Iranian missile boat surged forward at 31 knots, spray breaking over its bow as it closed the gap between formations. And for exactly 40 seconds, 5 Iranian warships had successfully cornered the most powerful aircraft carrier on Earth. But here's what Iran didn't calculate. The US Navy doesn't survive at sea by panicking. It survives by drilling the same crisis 1,000 times before it happens for real. When the Iranian missile boat started painting American ships with fire control radar, the carrier's response was immediate and surgical. 2 FA-18 Super Hornets launched from Ford's deck, not as an attack, but as a statement. The sky suddenly belonged to America. Then a Seahawk helicopter lifted from the escorting destroyer and positioned itself directly above the Iranian formation. Every maneuver, every weapon mount, every sailor standing on deck was now being recorded in high resolution, time-stamped, and geolocated. The Iranians had tried to create a moment of ambiguity. What they got instead was evidence. Perfect, undeniable evidence of who had maneuvered unsafely and who had maintained discipline under pressure. The Iranian command vessel tried one final move, ordering the missile boat to cut inside the lead frigate's turn radius. That was the mistake that broke their entire formation. 2 Iranian ships found themselves fighting for the same piece of ocean, each trying to avoid the other without looking like they were backing down. The formation collapsed under its own weight. The pressure box opened, the distances grew, and the USS Gerald R. Ford continued through the Strait of Hormuz without changing course by a single degree. Think about what actually happened here. 5 Iranian warships spent 8 minutes trying to force 1 American aircraft carrier to turn away from international waters. They used speed, formation tactics, radar intimidation, and radio warnings. They pushed the encounter to the edge of weapons engagement, and at the end of it all, they were the ones forced to adjust course while the carrier maintained its heading like nothing had happened. That's not just tactical victory, that's psychological dominance. But the real victory wasn't about ships or weapons, it was about the record. While Iranian crews were struggling to maintain formation, American sensors were building a digital archive of every movement, every radio transmission, every radar sweep, and every course change. The Navy turned what could have been a chaotic confrontation into a legal document. Proof of who maneuvered safely and who didn't. Proof of who followed maritime law and who tried to manufacture a crisis. The Iranian ships are still out there, still shadowing American formations, still trying to create moments of pressure in one of the world's most critical waterways. But this encounter changed the rules of engagement. Iran learned that challenging a US carrier strike group doesn't just mean facing the ship, it means facing the entire network. The aircraft overhead, the sensors watching, the weapons tracking, and most importantly, the discipline to let the other side make the mistakes while every second gets recorded for history. So when 5 warships challenge the most powerful navy on Earth and end up retreating without a shot being fired, that tells you everything about where real power comes from. It's not about who shoots first, it's about who never has to. And in the Strait of Hormuz, that answer just became very, very clear.